working in the health sector for the rollout of the vaccine. But will he also consider the important role that those working in the teaching profession and in childcare play, because by them being in work, it enables children to be in school or in care and therefore allows their parents to be economically active?
I absolutely, of course, understand that the importance of that. I mean, hence having protected education and kept schools open as much as possible and through this second peak. And in fact, I pay tribute to schools who have, in very, very large part, stayed open. Some children have had to go home, and we're looking to see how we can use testing to reduce the need for children in bubbles to have to isolate if an index case has test positive in a school.
Video link. Pauline Latham.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. My right honourable friend probably saw the BBC News last night featuring the Royal Derby Hospital, where staff were saying that the numbers that were in hospital now were higher than the peak earlier this year, and that they were exhausted but would keep going. Is there any opportunity for the Nightingale staff that perhaps are on standby that could come in and assist, so that some of these hard-pressed doctors and nurses could actually have slightly more time off so that they wouldn't be quite so exhausted?
Well, I want to thank staff at the Royal Derby for the work that they're doing. These are difficult circumstances, and one of the reasons that we brought in measures which I know are difficult is in order to protect the NHS from the increase in the number of cases, which, as she says, in Derby is now higher than in the first peak. Unfortunately, the solution that she proposes is in fact the other way round, which is that the NHS Nightingales provide extra space and extra capacity, but we need to stretch the existing workforce to use them, to staff them if they are needed. It's another reason to take the measures that we've taken in order to protect the NHS.
Antoniazzi.
Penblwydd hapus, Mr Deputy Speaker. There have been a number of concerns raised today about the staffing in the NHS. So can I press the Secretary of State to give his commitment to ensure that cancer professionals are not redeployed away from cancer treatment and care so that they can beat the backlog rather than build it even further?
Yes, that is absolutely our goal, absolutely, to keep all cancer treatment going during this second phase. So far that has been successful everywhere, even where hospitals have had to postpone non-urgent activity, they have not postponed cancer treatment. So this is incredibly important to me personally, and I strongly support the recommendation that the Honourable Lady sets out.
Aaron Bell.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Could I join my right honourable friend in praising the work of the Vaccine Task Force in securing so much of this first encouraging vaccine and the work they've done to have a good portfolio. If I could turn to the joint inquiry of the Science and Technology and Health Committee, which met this morning, we considered test and trace, but it seems to me one of the key parts is the third part, the isolation part. This 20% figure has been bandied about, but Baroness Harding was able to give us a preliminary figure of 54% of people who did manage to observe staying at home. But would you agree with me that we actually need more data about this? We need to understand how many people are staying at home. I realise it's not completely binary, but also how that varies between people who've got positive tests and people who've been asked to isolate. And like my honourable friend, the right honourable friend, the member for South West Surrey, the chair of the Health Committee, would he look at Sir John Bell's suggestion that people who are merely contacts could be released from quarantine earlier through rapid testing?
I'm happy to look at all of those constructive suggestions, and maybe I can also take this opportunity to put on the record my thanks to the Vaccines Task Force and to Kate Bingham personally for the leadership that they have shown in being able to procure the 340 million doses that they've achieved, which I know that the whole country is grateful for, the 40 million in particular of the Pfizer vaccine and the work that they've done.
Video link. Marion Fellows.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. What update can the Secretary of State give the House on the new strain of coronavirus identified in mink in Denmark? And aside from the travel restrictions now in place from Denmark, what steps are being taken to stop any new outbreak?
The Honourable Lady raises an incredibly important point. We acted very fast, including working with the Scottish Government and the other devolved governments, to take the action that we did at the end of last week. We are concerned about this outbreak, but I'm concerned about the fact that this virus has become virulent across the mink population. And I think that there is an international case on public health grounds for addressing this question of mink farming, which we banned in the UK 2 decades ago. It was due to come to an end in Europe in 2023 anyway, but it is, people will have their own views on animal welfare grounds, and I've certainly got mine. And, but clearly on global public health grounds, there is a case to do everything we can to stop the retransmission of this virus into an animal population and then back again, which can lead to these sorts of mutations that we've seen. We'll do everything we can to keep people safe. I just also should put on the record, Mr. Deputy Speaker, if you may indulge me, my thanks and admiration of the government of Denmark, who have responded to this also very quickly. Our actions are in no way shouldn't be interpreted as a criticism of the Danish government, who have acted very fast. It's a painful economic decision that they've taken very swiftly to cull their mink population. We are merely acting to keep this country safe.
Joe Gideon.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I really welcome today's news that we are now much closer to the rollout of vaccines. However, as of today, the Royal Stoke Hospital in my constituency has more than double the COVID patients that it had during the first peak. And this is combined with record high levels of COVID-related staff absence. This is of concern to me, to fellow MPs from Stoke-on-Trent, and I know my right honourable friend from Newcastle-under-Lyme shares this concern. Will my right honourable friend join me in praising the heroic efforts of our NHS staff in Stoke-on-Trent and help us to deal with this situation until such time as the situation is improved by the rollout of vaccines?
Yes, I know Stoke-on-Trent Hospital, and I think that the people who work there do a brilliant job, and they are a great team, and they work so closely and well for the people of Stoke-on-Trent and indeed Newcastle-under-Lyme. And I know that Stoke has got an outbreak under control a couple of times in this virus. In fact, they had a second peak in the summer, which they got under control, and then this is really a third peak in Stoke. Stoke Council have also worked closely with us on the early rollout of mass testing and one of the pilot even before Liverpool. And I want to thank everybody at the Royal Stoke for all the hard work that they're doing, and urge everyone in Stoke and across the country to respect social distancing and follow the rules, because that's the best way to support our NHS.
Video link. Jamie Stone.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Clearly, I represent a vast and extremely remote constituency. In my constituency, there are groups of elderly people who are potentially very vulnerable to the COVID virus. Could I ask the Secretary of State, when he talks to the Scottish Government, to make sure that these people are reached out to with the vaccine, because it would be too bad if one part of Scotland was to lose out against another as the vaccine is rolled out?
Yes, our principle is to roll out the vaccine across the whole of the UK according to clinical need, and that's what we should do.
Matt Vickers.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Teesside Dementia Links is an amazing charity run by some of the most inspiring people I've ever met. They deliver support to families and individuals dealing with dementia, and have told me of some of the pain suffered by so many in our care homes, unable to see loved ones. I welcome the recent guidance and would like to ask my right honourable friend if he'll continue to do everything he can to ensure that we can safely and meaningfully reunite families.
I really do, and you know, I'm a fan of new technology, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I'm not going to deny it, but the reason I'm a fan is because it can help improve people's lives, and this is one example. New technology, testing technology, quite intricate biochemistry, will help to enable people to see their loved ones in care homes, and I can't think of a better example of how new technology can really help improve people's lives, and I can't wait to see it happen.
I'd like to thank the Secretary of State for his statement today and answering questions to 55 members of Parliament. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the 10-minute rule motion, and then we'll suspend for 3 minutes. So we will start with the 10-minute rule motion on jet skis licensing. Howell Williams.
Diolch yn fawr iawn, Mr Deputy Lefarydd. Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I beg to move that leave be given to bring in a bill to establish a system of licensing for drivers of jet skis to create the offence of driving a jet ski without a licence and for connected purposes. Jet skis, or otherwise motorised personal watercraft, are powerful machines of up to 300 horsepower, which can reach speeds of up to 40 miles per hour on water. They are easy to tow and they're easy to launch from any beach. Compared with other watercraft, they're not expensive and their use has been growing for many years. I have been told that this year sales of jet skis locally in my constituency and in Gwynedd are up by 30%. I think that honourable members will be surprised to hear that in the UK anyone can use a jet ski. No licence is required. There is no compulsory training or a test of competence. The recommended lower age limit is 12 years. Local authorities and other bodies have limited regulatory powers, such as setting speed limits in some areas and specifying launching areas. But enforcement is difficult and it can be expensive in a time, of course, of cuts. In my opinion, and in the opinion of many boat owners, local residents, and people who just want to use our wonderful beaches in peace, local bylaws, speed limits within yellow buoys and such like are just not sufficient. In the words of a local beach warden to me this summer, he said, "I can tell them till I'm blue in the face not to come close to the bathers, but there's nothing I can do to stop them." My own local authority, which has led the way on this matter, passed a motion last month calling for proper regulation of the use of jet skis. The Police and Crime Commissioner for North Wales, Mr Arfon Jones, has voiced his support. Chief Inspector Mark Armstrong of the North Wales Police told me, "Bob blwyddyn yn ardal Gwynedd a Môn, rydyn ni'n gweld achosion o bobl yn cael eu lladd neu brifo yn arw ar ôl digwyddiadau tebyg. Every year in Gwynedd and Anglesey, we see cases where people have been killed or seriously injured as a consequence of incidents like this. Current regulatory measures are useful, but cannot be a substitute for what is really needed, and that is a proper licensing system with training and the test of competence and proportionate enforcement properly funded. Antisocial and less commonly the dangerous use of jet skis, sometimes associated with prior alcohol consumption, have long been a problem. This year though, anecdotally at least, the problems seem to have got much worse than usual. Perhaps because of COVID, more people have taken their holidays in the UK, and their jet skis, of course, are easy to tow and easy to launch. But this is not a short-term problem. My predecessor, now Lord David Wigley, campaigned for legislation after a tragic jet ski accident in our Carnarvon constituency over a generation ago. It is significant, Mr Deputy Speaker, that the current House of Commons library paper on jet skis dates from 2010. The majority of jet ski users are, I'm sure, both responsible and law-abiding. There are also responsible commercial users who quite reasonably don't want to be burdened with extra regulation. And proper quality training is available, for example, from the Royal Yacht Association. And I am particularly grateful to Mr Howard Pidding from the RYA for his briefing on the matter. He details the work that a number of organisations are already doing to enhance the safety and encourage the responsible use of jet skis. This includes the RYA Personal Watercraft Proficiency Course, a guide to effective management schemes, advice and signage, and safety videos in collaboration with the RNLI. He says that improved communication and education will reduce incidents, and I am sure that he is correct. And there are also considerations about the liberty of all to use our waters, our freedom of the seas, which is very dear to many, many people. This bill, though, does not aim for a general system of regulation of all marine leisure use. It is to address the special case of jet skis. Tragically, this summer, we again had fatalities on the shores of Gwynedd associated with the use of jet skis. There were deaths elsewhere in constituencies represented by supporters of this bill. There were incidents of injury, and many honourable members will have heard reports and seen pictures of jet skis being driven at speed close to bathing beaches, sometimes even where children were swimming. These craft being driven at high speed, even where there were speed limits. Accidental collisions with boats and near misses. Disturbance of people fishing from the shore, such as in my hometown of Caernarfon, such as at Dock Victoria, and of jet ski drivers intruding into nature reserves. There have been incidents of aggressive and threatening use. Only this morning, I was sent a picture of a jet ski on the Menai Straits, performing a very tight circle around a lone kayaker. Just one other example will suffice, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Yesterday, I received a video of an incident on the 21st of September from someone I will not name for reasons that will become obvious. The video is just 10 seconds long, and it is a shame, Mr. Deputy Speaker, with all these screens around us, that I cannot play it here in the chamber for 10 of your seconds. The person who took it was on what looks to me like a paddleboard, a little outside the Yellow Buoys area. He describes the circumstances like this. The jet skier was in a party of people, including a couple of youths, who were all taking turns on the jet ski. They were pulling high-speed stunts within the Yellow Buoy restriction zone. There was nearly an accident with some young swimmers. The video, as I said, taken from the paddleboard, then shows the jet ski driver, a burly man in his 40s, driving towards us at increasing speed and, crucially, outside the Yellow Buoy area. As he gets near, he swerves towards us, looking directly at the camera and shouting something inaudible, which is probably unrepeatable in this chamber. He then turns away, causing a heavy wake, and makes off at speed back towards the shore, back towards the Yellow Buoy area. The action is clearly very dangerous and could have resulted in direct injury had he misjudged the speed or direction, or possibly the need for a rescue or even a drowning. The paddleboarder adds in his email to me, when the video was shared on our local Facebook page, others commented that they had left the beach early due to noise and irritation. This is particularly significant in Wales and other tourist areas, which attract people specifically because we offer peace and quiet to enjoy our extraordinary natural environment. Tourism, after all, accounts for up to a third of our economy in some areas. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the UK is the only state in Europe without a licensing system, and there is a long list of other countries around the world which control their use. Now, the Department of Transport propose to bring forward consultation on draft legislation that will consider bringing personal watercraft within the definition of a ship for the purposes of the Merchant Shipping Act. Now, I'm not against this, and it would possibly catch the burly gentleman that I described earlier. It might deter some irresponsible users, but I believe that it is not a substitute for proper regulation. Mr. Deputy Speaker, lawmaking is a long, slow grind, even without Brexit and COVID clogging up the works. But the overwhelming support I've had on jet skis, with not a single person against, will, I hope, persuade the government to act with a proper licensing system. It cannot come too soon. Thank you.
I've had no indication that any member wishes to speak against the 10-minute rule motion, so I will therefore pose the question. The question is that the honourable member have leave to bring in the bill. As many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Who will prepare and bring in the bill?
Right Honourable Liz Saville-Roberts, Ben Lake, the Right Honourable Sir Roger Gale, Geraint Davies, Paul Maynard, Jim Shannon, Tim Farron, Pete Wishart, Sir David Amis, Claire Hanna, and myself, sir.
Howell Williams.
Jet skis licensing bill.
Second reading what day?
February the 5th, 2021, Mr. Speaker. Deputy Speaker, rather.
2021. Thank you very much. We will now suspend for 3 minutes, and if we can have sanitisers on the dispatch boxes, please, during that period of time. Thank you. Please leave with caution. Order.